If you have your calculator, go ahead and get it out. We're going to talk a little bit more about the box and whisker plot. Box and whisker is relatively simple. It tells you quite a bit. Box and whisker. So a lot of time your box and whisker graph is just going to look like something like that, where you have a minimum value, you have a maximum value. This is your median. This is Q1. This is Q2. Your median is also known as Q3, excuse me, is Q2. How the box and whiskers talks about is it breaks your data into 25% increments. So this portion right here would be worth 25% of your data. This in here would be 25% of your data. This here would be 25% of your data. And this right here would be 25% of your data. So if we were to say, what does your interquartile range encompass? It encompasses half your data. And the interquartile range, the IQR, is equal to Q3 minus Q1. Okay, so this is all stuff that we have talked about, we've gone over. So some things that can take place with these is you could have numbers way out here or over here. These would be known as outliers. And we talked about an outlier being, and again, I'm just kind of reviewing over this. I'm not necessarily going through the whole spiel of it. But an outlier was, if you were to look for an outlier this way, it's going to be I just dropped it. Is it 1 minus the IQR for the value? Oh, Q1 minus the IQR times what? 1.5. Okay, so if you had an outlier that way, you're looking at your minimum value. You might come across a question that says, is this point an outlier? You'd have to realize it's Q1, and I will give you that formula. In order to find the outlier this way, it's going to be Q3 plus IQR times 1.5. And 1.5 comes around with degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom have to refer to if we like how our data fits or not. So your graphing calculator will indeed deal with outliers. But you have to realize which one to plug in on the calculator. So I'm going to pull mine up. So some things about the box and whisker plot. Does it tell you the average? No, not necessarily. Okay, they might label it as your average, but things that you have to understand about the data is your average might be like here. Okay? Or it might be the other way. Remember, your average is influenced by an outlier. It's going to pull it to the right or to the left. Could your median be influenced by an outlier? Kinda, okay? I like that answer. Why do I like a kinda answer? Why do I like a kinda answer?
It depends on how much data you have.
So if I were to add you, if you had a whole problem that you had already done, and then I say, what would happen if I add this one more piece of data in there? Would that one more piece of data change your middle term? Yeah, like if you had 130 pieces of data and I gave you one more piece of data, your middle is going to change slightly. It's going to move either to the right or to the left, depending upon where that region is. But it's not going to influence it that much. If you had a whole sequence of events, and let's say your middle numbers came out to be 13, 13, 13, 13, and 13, and you realize, okay, 13 happened, and then I add one more piece of data to the back end of it or the bottom end of it. It depends how in the middle those 13s were as our data went. So the median could be influenced if I added one more piece of data. It's not going to be really influenced by a huge outlier because it's not going to change. So if I had a string of numbers where the biggest number is 30, and then I said, okay, here, we're going to add 115,283, that's going to really influence your mean, your average, but your median is just going to switch over to the right just a little bit. Okay? So let's figure out which portion of our calculator we're going to use. So I'm going to be on worksheet 3.4, worksheet 3.4 in your book, and I want to I want to plug this in to the calculator. Let's see how we do. We want to see if there's outliers. Problem number 1 says, for the data set above, find the mode, the median, the mean, the shape of the distribution. That means skew right or skew left, and the range. So I want to plug that data into the calculator. That is on worksheet 3.4. Go. Good to see you, sunshine. All right. Yeah. So I'm just going to plot this data in. Sorry I don't have it pre-slugged in. I'm lazy. Just make sure I have it plugged in right. 12, 12. Sweet. Okay. So if we wanted to find the mode, is there any buttons that we would push that would find us the mode right off the bat? They're already in order, so it should be pretty easy to find the mode. So we're going to look for the most occurring numbers. So we have 2 11s, we have 2 12s, we have 4 13s, or 3 13s, 4 14s, 2 15s, 2 16s, 2 17s, 1 18, 1 19, 1 20, 21. What's the mode? 14. Is it bimodal? No, I don't have 2 numbers that happen 4 times. So number 14 is the mode. Okay. Now, we could find the median by just finding the very middle of the numbers, which should be the 11th term. So I can count from either way. So count from 21, go backwards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So our middle of this data should be 14. Happens to be the mode as well. And then what do I do in order to find all of the rest of the data, which could be the median? Okay? What's the button I push on the calculator though? Stat? Then what? Calculate? One variable statistics. Now, good practice is to hit second L1. Okay, it's not required, but it's good practice too, especially if you have multiple lists. So this is going to give us our list 1. So our average is 15. The summation of our list is 315. The summation, if I squared everything on my list, is 4,887. We have 2 standard deviations. One of them was an n-1, one was an n. We have 21 terms. What else do we have on here? My minimum is 11. my Q1 is 13, my median is 14, my Q3 is 17, my max term is 21, and that's all this is going to tell us for right now. Okay? Can we tell just by looking at our data if it's skewed left or right? What do you think? I'm not quite sure if it's skewed left or right. Just by looking at it, we could take a shot in the dark saying it's either normal, skewed left, or skewed right. But I'm going to go on the calculator. I'm going to make sure the stat plot is on. I'm going to go on number 1. And I'm going to go down to the type. I don't want it as dots or connect dots or histogram. So if I have outliers, this is the box and whiskers I'm going to use. This is the preliminary box and whiskers I'm going to use right off the bat. If you use this one, I believe that center region is the 50%. It's not broken into Q1, Q2, and Q3, which Q2 is the median. So I'm going to go with this one first. This is going to tell me my overall shape. So I'm going to hit Enter. I'm going to hit Graph. And if it doesn't show up on your graph right away, go ahead and hit Zoom. And then take it down. I believe it's number 9, which is Zoom Stat. So Zoom Stat, which would be number 9. Okay? So by looking at the data, can anyone take a shot at it? Do you think it's skewed right or skewed left? Yeah.
Would it be more visual if you were doing a histogram?
I was going to go there next. But I was going to see if we can make a shot, take a shot in the dark on that. So I heard some skew right, I heard some skew left. What do you think? Who says right? Raise your hand. Why do you think it's skewed right? It just looks like? The line is longer on the right side. Okay. Any other ideas on skew right? Why it would be? Does anyone feel it's skew left? All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to take a look at the histogram of it first off. So if it's skew right, the histogram will have a tail, more data off to the right of the average. If it's skew left, it'll be more to the left. So I'm going to go back into my stat plot, number 1. I'm going to plot it as a histogram. Zoom. Remember, I go back and hit Zoom Stat. Skew right. So this was definitely skew right. It was skew right if you look back at the graph itself. We saw a longer tail pulling it to the right. As far as what the average is doing, skew right. This has a lot to do with the whisker portion. It has to do with the box portion as well. Go back into this. What's that?
I don't know. I'm just my calculator's being weird. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like saying like it's
It's what?
It's like mine's saying like air, it won't like graph.
Okay,
I
make
just
sure
don't know how to do it.
go into y equals. Make sure there's nothing under y equals.
Oh,
Make sure your stat plot is on.
it is.
It is. Once your data is plugged in, make sure you have nothing in any of the other lists.
I had something in black. It's white.
Okay. And then now you should be able to hit Zoom Fit or Zoom Stat. So if the median is right here, and look at how long this box is to the right, and then how far this goes, this tells us it's going to be skew right just by looking at it. Now I want to see if I have any outliers. We know that if we had outliers for to the left, we would go Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR, and the IQR is Q3 minus Q1. And if we have any to the right, it's going to be Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. as well. So the other way that we're going to take a look at these outliers, I'm going to go into my stat plot. I'm going to go back into plot 1. Oops, down there. And I'm going to use this one is going to tell us if we have outliers. Hit enter. Hit zoom, God bless you. Zoom 9 for zoom stat. It looks like the same exact one that we just had on there. Let me make sure I have it appropriately put. Yep. So, by looking at this, does it appear that any of our data is outside of our box and whiskers? No. Let's do this. I'm going to add one more piece of data to our graph. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not going to be on our problem itself, but I'm going to go to the very bottom of it, and let's add something that we know will be an outlier. Let's add 100. So this is going to change our average, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So I'm going to hit stat, calculate. This is changing things. We're okay with that. I just want to show you what an outlier looks like when you graph it. Hit zoom 9. So you see how you have, now this looks a lot smaller. Here's your box and whiskers, but then you have this point way out here. That's what your outlier is going to look like. It's not going to be attached in there. So the calculator is going to tell you if you have an outlier if you use the first box and whiskers, not the second one. That's going to show an outlier.
Should I have an x-axis or a y-axis? Because I don't have like any marks.
It depends. The y-axis doesn't have anything really to do with this. It's just it's putting it in your graph, showing you what the picture looks like. It's scaled out on your x-axis.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense? Does anybody need me to run through it again? All right. Also, the title of your graph is something that you might want to have on there. Let's do. So this is what I have planned between. Today, we're going to start working on a little bit of this homework. You have a little bit more time to work on it in class, because I want to help you with the calculator. Tomorrow, we're actually going to start 4.1. So today is going to be a review day as well. We'll start 4.1 tomorrow, but on Wednesday, we will do the actual test. So our assignment that I want you to start working on now, if you don't have it with you, you have somebody who has their books, so you can take a look at it. But we're going to work on worksheet 3.6, which is the review, which looks like it goes through 1 through 9, and work on that for the rest of the period. If you have questions about any of them, I'll let you work a little bit. If you have questions, we'll go back, work on whatever's there. But the 3.6 worksheet is a review. I'll check that off tomorrow. If you have any old words, you can show me tomorrow as well.
Wait, what is your tomorrow?
3.6 review. We'll go over it tomorrow, then we'll start 4.1, and then the following day we will do a test on the chapter 3. Does anybody